Hello and welcome to this episode of the Formula WINOL podcast. As per always, I've got Tom and Ed with me today.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello there. And really, this is just a review of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Shouldn't be a long one. We're not going to do like a season review or anything. This one, we're just going to wrap up the last race of the season. Overall, as a weekend, pretty dull, I'd say. Practice sessions were not interesting, other than Kimi
Nothing
having
really happened.
his engine explode.
Mm.
Um,
There was two actually that happened at the. Wasn't there one before that?
Russell,
There
like
was-
5 seconds before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Russell, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh great, we got another engine failure.
that's great.
I guess because everyone was at the end of their cycle with the engines. They're kind of on their last breaths, shall we say?
Yeah, I didn't watch the only bit of the weekend, the only session I watched in full the entire weekend was the race.
I think I watched all
watched
of
quali.
quali and race, but
Yeah,
barely any of the practices.
Early quali, I'm not taking my lunch break that early when I've still got to work until 6. Like, it's not worth it. But I mean, as far as I was aware, quali was a bit dull. I wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway because the Renaults were out in Q2.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame for them, really. They just didn't seem to have the pace this weekend. They weren't quite on. I mean, it's hard to tell Racing Point's true pace because, I mean, they struggled in the race with Stroll, and we didn't get to see how good Perez would be. But yeah, they just weren't really anywhere this weekend, to be honest.
So before we dive into the race, because obviously quali we know what happened in quali. Max got pole, everything else is pretty normal. Lando did a great job. May as well just do the predictions, get that done. The last one of the season. Ed, you're the one who's been counting up all the predictions, so I'll leave you to take it away on that one.
Yes, we'll get going. Obviously, we forgot to go over the Sakir Grand Prix predictions.
Oof.
So we'll start with that. We agreed that because we all predicted Hamilton for that, and then obviously you missed the race. We agreed Russell would get swapped in for Hamilton.
Spice it up a bit.
So it really didn't make much of a difference at all. So I predicted Russell on pole, and then with the top 6 of Russell, Verstappen, Bottas, Ricardo, Albon, Perez, first DNF Stroll, and crazy prediction being Fittipaldi in the points. That got me nothing. Brilliant. Tom, similar vein. We got Russell.
Can I have the massive
pole.
comeback?
No. Russell pole, Russell win, Bottas second, Ricardo third, Albon fourth, Perez fifth, Ocon sixth, Verstappen DNF first, and both Ferraris out in Q1, also 0 points. And
I can't believe we're not saying the Verstappen one.
No, right. So we had a conversation before the podcast, and I want to make this very clear as to why Tom didn't get the point for the Verstappen DNF before anyone gets annoyed. So when the contact was made, Charles Leclerc's suspension broke on impact, meaning he DNF'd first. Max didn't hit the wall until about 10-15 seconds later. Well, probably sub 10,
but I mean,
which means that
they both got out
Leclerc
of the cars at the
retired
same
first.
time.
No, that doesn't count. He retired
Oh.
first.
I'm
He
not
was,
going to
he
win
was
it anyway.
out of the race first.
we gotta be harsh because Tom vetoes a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you do as well, Ed.
Either way, to be fair.
yeah,
to be
but mine
fair,
aren't marginal.
The thing is about Verstappen is that incident was totally avoidable if he had just stopped accelerating.
Okay, I will admit it was like
It was a ridiculous crash.
on the basis that it was an embarrassing mistake for Verstappen. I will allow you to veto it.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, that's 0 points for Tom, and then Torin. He actually didn't get 0 points. He
Way
got,
coming in clutch.
Russell
It was.
pole, Russell win, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Perez fourth, Ricardo fifth, and Gasly sixth. The first DNF of Albon and the crazy prediction of Ferrari's power units going pop. I believe he got the points for Ricardo in.
Wait, has anyone actually seen the power unit in a racing point?
No.
It could be a Ferrari.
Oh, don't even.
Anyone have photographic evidence that it's not a Ferrari?
That was no racing point popped in Sakir anyway.
Oh, I'm thinking Bahrain.
Yeah.
Perez.
So yeah, after Sakir, we're at the total of Torin on 6 points, me on 5 points, and Tom on 1 point.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not incorrect here, I think I'm correct here. F1 engines like do a little pop when you turn them off. So when Leclerc put his car in P0 when he hit the wall, his engine would have gone pop. It would have done a little pop when he turned it off.
I guess it's just flushing out the in the fuel from anything left in the engine.
But the Ferrari power unit popped. It would have popped. So I should have a point.
No. Right, we'll move on to Abu Dhabi. We'll again go in order.
He's really
of what we
scraping the
said,
barrel
so-
here. Isn't he? Like any point.
Yeah,
It's getting competitive
desperate.
now.
He's desperate because he knows I'm on a charge here. So we'll start. I said pole Bottas, pole win. Pole Bottas, win Bottas. Verstappen second, Hamilton third, Perez fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Sainz sixth, with an Albon DNF, and I said someone would end up upside down. I got Hamilton and Sainz right in third and sixth, so I get 2 points. Move on to Tom. He said pole Hamilton, pole win, Bottas second, Ricciardo third, Albon fourth, Leclerc fifth, Gasly sixth. First DNF of Verstappen and a crazy double alpha crash at turn one, which obviously didn't happen. So he gets points for Bottas in second and Albon in fourth.
Well done,
Which
because
gives him
Albon had
2
such
points.
a shocking race. You got points.
You got a
Congratulations.
shocking. No, I'm not even entertaining that
That's
notion.
for later in the podcast.
I'm not even listening. I'm talking over you now. Torin said pole Hamilton, win Hamilton, Bottas second, Verstappen third, Ricciardo fourth, Albon fifth, Perez sixth, first DNF Vettel, and crazy was Haas scoring. And he got nothing.
Can I just say, I doubled my points, like the points that I'd scored
That is
overall
true.
in one race.
So
Triple
Tom
that,
should win technically.
Surely I should win.
No.
I want to make it clear as well to the viewers that I'm being hard done by here. So it was not first DNF Vettel. It was a heartbreaking first DNF, and then the word Vettel was attached to it. But
Oh, go.
it was a
away.
heartbreaking DNF for Sergio Perez, and it was in what will be
Yeah,
Sebastian
Perez's
Vettel's car.
car.
Yeah,
Perez-
it
Perez's
is going to be
car.
Vettel's car. It is basically.
Yeah, but who was
Red-
driving it?
Oh,
Perez.
Yeah, Perez is driving Vettel's
So
car.
my-
I did
so-
say it was going to
okay,
be Vettel.
then
The car
Vet-
that would
then
never said it would be
Perez
the car Vettel is
technically
in. I said it would be heartbreaking
Uh,
involving
uh,
Vettel.
but to counter that, if it was Vettel's car, wouldn't he have named it? Because he names all of his cars.
He
doesn't
only ever named the Ferraris from memory. Oh no, he didn't. Of course he didn't. He named his
The Red Bulls.
2013 car Kylie, and that's why my
Yeah.
car's called Kylie.
he? Yeah. See?
Hey, so with that, we'll total up the points for the season. There's no more races to predict, and
Right.
we'll go from bottom up. So Tom, third place with 3
Oh, yeah.
points. Drum roll, please.
No.
No. Torin second, 6 points, and I win with 7. And I love to see it.
Is there a prize? I think the prize should be you have to do a shoey.
I'm not doing a shoey.
Treat yourself.
I will have. I'll do something. I will. Yeah, I'll figure it out. You'll both give me some FIFA points or something. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. That's
No.
fine. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, I meant to say 7. My bad.
Did you put something in chat?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh God.
Just to
Gosh.
clarify, Torin's just put well done on getting
I
6 more points
chat,
than
I
Chelsea did
chat,
this weekend.
It was 6 more points than Spurs got, but it's 7 more points than Chelsea got.
7 more points than Chelsea.
We're moving on now. So
Anyway.
I won unlike Spurs this week, so it's all good.
back to Abu Dhabi. There wasn't really too many standout performances in quali, apart from you touched on Lando. The other one that I want to bring up was Kvyat in P7.
Yeah, it's
Which-
too late though, isn't it?
It's too little, too late, but he has had a really good send off, with a few sort of glimmers of hope.
He
It'll
did
be
the
interesting to see
performances
what
he
he
should have
does.
done 4 years ago in the last couple
Yeah,
of years,
which is a shame, really. But you
I
know,
mean, is it?
depends if you're a Kvyat fan or not, which I myself
There's
am
Kvyat
not.
fans.
I don't know.
This isn't technically slander because he's not in the sport anymore.
Ooh, he hasn't. The second seat hasn't been confirmed, so I mean,
You say that, but I am telling you right now that the Red Bull lineup in 2022 is going to be Gasly and Albon because Max is going to go to Mercedes with George Russell.
Hot
have
take.
Mercedes? Oh yeah, I guess they can just rip up the contracts, can't they? I mean, if that actually does happen, then that is insane. But I will be very, very surprised if it does. But yeah, I mean, onto the race. Lap 1, nothing really happened, to be honest. It was a pretty boring lap 1 until, everyone was kind of probably just, I mean, I myself was just on Twitter the whole time. I don't know about you guys.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nothing really happened until Sergio broke down, which is, a bit of a sad way to end.
Albon got past Norris, I believe, for that.
Oh, did he? Right.
I think so. If not, it must have been before.
It might have been around that time. It would have been interesting to see what Albon could do.
Yeah, it would have been.
If he would have got
it really would have been.
Norris,
but
earlier.
He shouldn't be in that car.
The hot takes.
If I speak.
But
yeah,
I mean,
damn right if you speak.
I think like it wasn't. I mean, let's talk a little bit about Albon. I don't think it was a bad weekend for Albon. Like by his terms, it was not like it wasn't.
He did
it was quite
what
good.
he needed to do.
Yeah.
He was close enough to the Mercedes that let them not do whatever they wanted strategy wise to try and pinch Verstappen.
Yeah.
If they left Hamilton out or Bottas out, then they would have been vulnerable to lose position to Albon. So Albon did what he needed to do, and although probably only the first or second time in his career for Red Bull he's done that, it was still. I think for me, Red Bull, in terms of the backing they'll lose by dropping Albon, I don't think it's worth it to drop him. But Perez may be a better driver, but I still don't see anyone doing as good or better in that car.
I just think put Perez in that and then put Albon back in AlphaTauri.
No, Red Bull have already said that AlphaTauri seat is closed.
But really? I personally think that the whole too little too late isn't applicable for Albon, and that is much. It's just it doesn't apply because he hasn't ever delivered.
Oh, go on, but no.
I think yeah.
You're just trying to annoy me now. You're just saying things to get on my nerves.
I'm being genuinely serious.
I'm gonna cry.
Gasly got dropped for so much less. At least Gasly was consistently sixth. Like
he was further off the pace though. Like
Gasly was
0.8. There's only two teammates who got 17-0'd this season. That's Latifi and Albon.
Latifi got 16-0'd.
I don't know.
Technically he didn't, but yeah, okay.
He beat Aitken.
Well, he got beat by George Russell, who's his teammate.
Yeah, but Russell.
You can argue this either way. George Russell is his teammate, but was in a different car, and you can argue it the other way as well. I'm fairly certain on like the official stuff that I saw, they were counting it as Russell, even though they probably shouldn't. But
yeah, they said Russell was 16-0. They didn't give him because they didn't give him a 1 because his team Bottas isn't his teammate.
Bottas.
But I mean, in the other Red Bull, it was pretty plain sailing, wasn't it, for Max? Yeah. I was very surprised. I didn't think he was gonna. That was our sort of hope of a good race, wasn't it?
The hope was going to actually do something. He would be really slow.
Yeah.
It would mean there'd be some actual fighting. Well, I mean, DRS after 3 laps would have ended that. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it was odd. I don't know what Mercedes, they were rumoured to have turned their engines down, and then I think
it was the power unit.
And then they said that they hadn't turned their engines down.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that it was to do with the power unit, and they were losing less than 0.1 tenths sort of like per lap, but then that's not enough to warrant the gap to Verstappen, but I mean, they can afford a weekend like that when they're so far ahead in the drivers and constructors.
True.
I'm not sure, did Max end up finishing ahead of Valtteri?
Yeah, he won.
The drivers.
Oh, no, standings. No.
Yeah, the standings.
Drivers stand. I'll get the exact points up for you.
It was a really good race by Max. Like, he managed it. He did everything he really needed to do.
I think it shows how much he's matured.
He didn't have the opportunity to crash into anyone.
Yeah, Verstappen was 9 points off. They had the same amount of wins and the same amount of podiums, but more DNFs.
Right. So Verstappen is ahead?
Behind, sorry, yeah.
Oh, behind.
223 points for Bottas, 214 for Verstappen.
214. But I mean, you can look at that either way. You can flip it however you want. You can either say Bottas has had a really bad season or Verstappen's had quite a good season. I would push it more to Bottas hasn't really had a good season, because this is the I saw a stat that this is the biggest margin that Hamilton has won the championship by. Those are including the other, I think it's 2 years that Bottas has been alongside him. To think that even in his rookie season he did a better job.
He won by 124 points over Bottas.
Despite there being less races and despite missing a race.
Yeah.
He had 11 wins this year. That's just outrageous.
That's crazy.
14 podiums as well.
I've
got a cheeky little trivia question for you guys while I got the I got the standings up. Who were the 3 lowest placed drivers in the standings who got a podium?
Ooh.
Who got a podium?
Yeah, in any order, the 3 lowest placed drivers who got a podium. Oh, and if you get it right, I'll tell you with the points and all that.
I'm trying to think. Like, I would say.
Albon?
Funny, no.
Well, there were 13 podium sitters.
Oh, one of them's got to be Ocon, surely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stroll?
One. Yes, that's who's the third?
And then
though?
Gasly.
No.
I was gonna say it's not Gasly.
Gasly. Gasly.
No, it wouldn't be Sainz.
Sainz was really high up.
Yeah, I guess after I'd be.
Give
When I
up.
say really high up, he finished ahead of Albon. It's not really.
I'm trying to think of who else has got podiums this year.
Yeah, me too. Most of them did.
You'll be gutted when you don't get it.
Wait.
Just
wait. It's gonna be Vettel, isn't it? Surely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vettel 33 points.
I think I
and
put a
13.
5 on him to win the title.
Yikes. Yeah, Vettel 33 points in 13th. Ocon 62 points in 12th. What a gap that is.
Oh
and then
my.
Stroll 75 points in 11th, and he had 2 podiums. He finished behind Norris and Gasly, who only had 1 podium each.
Wow.
Although, Gasly had a win, which was his podium.
That's crazy. The gap between Vettel and Ocon.
Oh, I find it. Sorry, Karen.
Ocon hasn't, like, for people in, journalists and sort of pundits and whatnot haven't really been praising him this year, and are on the side of he hasn't really performed well up against Ricciardo, yet he's still got that massive gap to Vettel. And I mean, like, it's hard. I don't really want to slander Vettel that much, because you don't know what's going on inside that garage and what he's got compared to what Leclerc's got. Like, yes, Leclerc has done really well this year, but it's hard to really say Vettel's done a bad job, because it could very well just be Ferrari giving him a bad car.
Yeah,
I think Leclerc had more upgrades apparently.
Yeah,
Right.
I back that. One interesting stat, I'm still looking at the standings. So Sainz and Albon were tied on points at 105, but Sainz finished ahead, although Albon had more podiums. I'm not sure what that's down to. I think it might be because Sainz may have got he got a P2 in Italy, in Monza. I was wondering why he'd be ahead with less podiums, but yeah. Because
He probably has the higher placed podium.
Yeah, Albon got 2/3 and Sainz got 1 second. It's just interesting to look at the standings.
Yeah. And it was also, obviously Perez did. I think personally, you'd be silly not to say Hamilton is the driver of the year. I mean, we'll talk about this in the.
I disagree.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I would say it's. I would say it's Hamilton, Perez, and then Gasly.
I'm gonna say something you guys will both like. I'm gonna say Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh yeah, true. Daniel Ricciardo.
Because he's massively outperformed that Renault.
He has, but I don't think, as much as I am biased as a Ricciardo fan, I don't think I can say he's done a better job than Perez, when you think that Perez has missed 2 races from COVID.
Yeah, Perez missed 2 races, but he is in last year's Mercedes.
Did you see Red Bull's tweet about that?
Yeah, I saw that. Was funny.
But yeah, I mean, the main thing, sort of, talking point with all the sort of standings was McLaren getting third in the constructors, which is is great for the team. Obviously, they get that extra money. They've already had. I think there was news of American investors buying. Wasn't it they sold part of the team? Yeah.
Sold some stakes. Yeah.
So hopefully it means they should hopefully get a bit, maybe possibly even clear of that midfield. We don't know yet.
World Drivers Champions next season.
Maybe. No,
I would love that.
I did see an interview with read an interview with Seidel where he said not to get ahead of themselves. They don't think they can close that gap to Mercedes and Red Bull sort of like soon. But it will be interesting to see what strides they make. But yeah, obviously, Lewis. I think Lewis did not a bad job this weekend. P3. He's still recovering from COVID. I don't think that's a bad job. I mean, he didn't need to do a good job. He's already got everything secured.
He shouldn't have raced.
No,
I still think he should have sat it out. But what I overlooked as well for quite a while is that he is also threatened by the he is also under threat with the Russell situation. It's not just all about Bottas, and it's certainly only being reported really by the main tabloids of the UK, so like the Mail and the Sun. So like it's a bit of a tabloid story. But Lewis is demanding a lot of money, and yes, he is delivering season after season. But Russell made such a point in that race, and he's earning so little at the moment. He would take whatever offer he's given to drive that Mercedes.
Yeah, he would do it for free, probably.
Yeah. So if they needed that money, if they decided that F1 wasn't financially viable with Lewis in the car anymore, solution.
I think I agree with that, and I'd love to see that actually. But I saw the provisional entry list for next year.
It's got Lewis on it.
And it's got Lewis on it, and it doesn't have Albon on it, which
it doesn't have Albon or Kvyat.
They're both as to be decided, but Hamilton's already down there, basically confirmed.
I mean, it was always gonna be confirmed. I think. I think it was always a bit of a media game.
But then I think then if you're taking that as what it is, then I think that starts the Hamilton to Ferrari, because there's not really many other teams that can afford.
He already said he doesn't want to do it.
Driver.
No, then where else Leclerc is starting to lock down on tier deals.
I think Leclerc and Sainz are there for a while.
Really? I don't think Hamilton's gonna even try the new red cars. I think next year is his final year if it's not this year. I don't think he would see the point in trying the new ones, because it's so much you've got to get used to, and if you're only going to do it for one season,
I think he'll do it for one season.
I'm not sure. I think
I could understand.
Argue Alonso would. I think.
Alonso's going to be trying the new red cars anyway, because it's on a 2-year contract.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But I understand why Alonso's doing it, but he's been away. But I don't think for Hamilton it's not worth it. He's got Extreme E to think about now.
Yeah, but he's only a team principal now. Like, you can do that from anywhere.
Still a big deal, but you know what I mean. There's other things in his life which are starting to take more of a foothold.
I can understand why if he did decide to retire, because it's the risk of the cars with the new regs. No one really knows where anyone's going to be with it, and with the less downforce, it's going to be more competitive. More things can go wrong. What else is there for him to achieve, really? He's beaten Michael with the wins. If he wins the championship next year, he is comfortably, if you're just looking at the stats, the most successful driver of all time by quite a big margin.
Would you not want to push it a little bit further though, just to see if you can get that gap just a little bit further before you call it quits?
The thing is he's got other things that I think he wants to achieve.
But we've got OJ, who's OJ smashed Loeb's record in WRC quite a few years ago.
Right.
Or like a couple seasons ago. I don't know how long ago.
We're talking about OJ Simpson for a second.
No, we're not talking about OJ. No, that's for another podcast. But he smashed the record, and he holds the record, but he still carries on going. I think there's a certain part to it, which is you want to push it as far as you can before you can't. And I don't think Lewis would want to retire on top. I think he'd want to have one season, that being 2022. And if he doesn't win it, then yeah.
I don't know, but then what else does OJ want to do with his life? I think Lewis it's already been covered by the media. Like he wants to go into, other things like music, for example,
LG adverts.
LG adverts, yes.
XDNA.
Securing multiple bags.
You can't say that in that kind of tone of voice. Now we're like roasting. Now we're gonna get got by the.
Yeah.
Good.
No, we'll bring it
get
back. We'll bring it back to the good side by saying I think it's really great that there's something that I didn't actually have written down. I'm not sure whether we talked about it in the preview. We might have done, but there was the news that the one of the straights in Silverstone, the start-finish straight of the new complex, is going to be named after Hamilton. Is the first driver to have his name on the track. I think it's really great, personally.
Yeah,
I agree.
There was a lot of complaints that, if his name is on there, why isn't, Sir Sterling Moss or
I was about to say that.
Stewart.
Just reading out my tweets now. That's pain. I was that was going to be my tweet of the week as well, but I got to change it now. Give myself tweet of the week.
I think you could argue that, yes, they do. There are other Brits that have their names deservedly on there, but if you could only put one English driver's name on that circuit, don't see why it wouldn't be Hamilton, because he's the most successful. Yeah, I mean, there's personally that I would rather see other drivers, but I think if you're
I think you gotta put it as the Hamilton straight.
Yeah. But no,
I agree with the Hamilton straight. I think if they're going to get rid of the international pit straight name for Hamilton, then they do need to get rid of the national pit straight as well, the name of it at least, or just the name. I think Sterling Moss would be the best candidate. Maybe Mike Hawthorne, as he was the first British F1 champion. Someone like that with great British history in the sport. I don't think they should rename Hanger Straight or Wellington Straight, because
you want it to be the Ash Sutton Straight.
Of course I want it to be the Ash Sutton Straight. He's not exactly got great F1 heritage now, has he?
The Michael Crease Straight. Make it happen.
Oh, that's a new hashtag. Again,
Formula WINOL trademark.
Yes.
Straight.
Yes.
Paint the curbs purple.
Yeah. Just get us as a sponsor for F1. Main sponsor.
The Formula WINOL Formula 1 World Championship.
Doesn't that just have a great ring to it?
Yeah,
I mean, better than a Ramco.
Yeah, really a Ramco.
We have gone off topic.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we have.
Let's bring it back onto some other points of the race, shall we? The Sainz pit lane investigation. As far as I'm aware, that's case closed.
Ridiculousness, yeah.
There was obviously I'm pretty sure it's obvious what happened. If you didn't see the race, like he slowed down before he came into the pit lane, like
did,
overly.
Yeah. And the argument is that it's against the rules to slow down and disturb someone else's pit stop.
Yeah.
It's quite clear that Sainz did it on purpose. I don't think for a second he was trying to slow down to meet the pit limit. I don't think he was. Because he slows down and then he kind of lets it engine brake and then he slows down again. But it wasn't significant enough to me. It didn't detriment Stroll. Stroll didn't hit him or anything.
Yeah.
Otmar, during Ted's notebook after the race, Otmar was telling Ted that he wanted Sainz thrown out of the race.
Yeah, because I did see that. It was funny actually, because there was two differing opinions coming from that. The Racing Point stable. You had Otmar saying, he should be out of the race. It ruined our race, basically. And then you had Stroll. I saw that Stroll in interview was just like, didn't really have that much of an effect. Like, it didn't really change our race that much. I think when even the driver himself. Yeah, but then I think, wouldn't it be the only way that Racing Point could get that P3 is if Sainz was like fully disqualified, because I think if you give him like a 5 or 10 seconds,
because Stroll dropped back
really
and he had like no pace at the end.
Yeah, and then the only other way it could happen is if they deduct construct points off McLaren, but then it's surely they'd want it to have an effect on the driver, the penalty.
I think I'm looking at the points again. McLaren had 202 points, Racing Point had 195. Sainz finished 6th I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
he scored 8 points. So if he got disqualified, Racing Point would have been third by 1 point. So that's why Otmar was like, "Oh, disqualify him, chuck him out of the race."
Because that's the only way it's going to happen. Yeah.
It's scummy and
It is.
disgusting.
But then you would
But
do that if you're the
yeah,
team
you totally.
principal.
I understand why he did, but it's awful. You shouldn't really be doing that.
And then behind them there was Ricardo, which I think actually had a really good race. He sort of went long on the first stint where everyone else sort of was on the softs or the medium. He was on the hard. Did a really good extended stint. I'm not quite sure what lap or sort of like when he pitted, but I know it was quite deep into the race.
35 or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Quite in the. It was quite.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say was Ricardo couldn't have done that because the only way to get from that point to the end of the race was on hard tyres, and he would have been pitting off of a pair of hard tyres, so he would not have been able to do that strategy.
Yeah.
So they would have thrown away any chance at any decent result by pitting.
Yeah, I think I was at the time. I was sort of a bit like unsure, but yeah, I think as you said,
I was confused as well, and I only
decision.
just realised like 10 seconds ago when we were talking about it. That's why I did it.
Yeah. And then obviously behind him was Gasly, which I think had a pretty good race, sort of overshadowing Kvyat's performance in qualifying. He came back past. Ed's mic has decided to blow.
Has it done it again?
Yeah.
I'll just mute myself. You guys talk.
Okay. But yeah, sort of Gasly, I think he did sort of quite a good race. Did a sort of a few overtakes. Not too bad of a job. I'm not sure who was behind him. And I think it was Stroll in 10th. He just the racing points, it was weird. They were just nowhere. I don't know whether that was because the track conditions didn't suit them or what, but Stroll just kept on getting past.
Yeah, I mean the Ocon overtaking the last lap, I think that was a very small.
Oh, it was Ocon.
I think that was a poor mentality on Stroll's part. I think he'd given up at that point. Only a few more things really. So Ed's mic did pick a decent time to cut off because it means that he won't be missing for too much of it. Seb's farewell song to Ferrari, he actually had the lyric sheet hidden in the car.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
a lot of people seem to. Which Ted didn't realize because he started asking, did they know the words and stuff? That was I wasn't sure about it. I quite like the team radio to be really meaningful. And I know that he sings all the time, and I kind of want it to be a nice, and also because not any of it means because it's all in Italian, and then the Ferrari teams and stuff.
They did have a translation on the F1 YouTube. I think they did. Yeah. I did like it. I think maybe it was a bit over the top. I'm gonna have Vettel fans coming at me now.
No, I liked it. I appreciate it. At least it wasn't. At least it wasn't like a straight up lie like Zach Brown saying, "Let's go win the Triple Crown."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, that gets memed so hard now.
Yeah, and Ted then announcing that Perez was going to be taking Albon's seat.
He said it would happen today because he said it yesterday, which
time's running out. Yeah, he thought it'd be today or it would happen like
at some point
about a week. Ed has said to mention that Grosjean is becoming an Among Us streamer, which I didn't realise, but
I did see screenshots of that actually.
From Ed, there you go. He's
quite,
Among Us.
He's done I did see a screenshot of the stream and he's actually done a really good job of like cropping his face onto the doing like a really good cutout. Yeah, so he's born streamer. But yeah, it's funny actually because obviously what Ted has said has caught the headlines. That if you watch the sort of F1 I've forgotten the name of it now, but it's the sort of build up with Lawrence Bretto and Will Buxton.
Yeah.
And the last sort of few weeks, it's weekend warm up, that's it. The last sort of few weekends, Lawrence has been saying like Albert, the noises that he's been hearing and the people that he's been talking to, like it looks like that seat is going to be his because Perez said he's been in basically what he thinks is happening is they're putting that pressure on Albon, and in the media they're saying that those options are open to put pressure on him and to try and make him perform. I don't think that's really what he needs, to be honest. I don't think that's the right thing for Albon to make him perform. But the proof of that is really Hulkenberg saying that, I think it was that's right. It was in an interview that Christian Horner was sort of asked about, who have you been talking to? What's happening? And he said, we've been talking to Perez, we've been talking to Hulkenberg. And then Hulkenberg, when asked, said I haven't had a call from him in ages. So, there's a bit of discrepancy there. You don't know whether, they are talking or not talking to people. I think it's really sort of split the paddock up, hasn't it? No one truly knows what's going on until they make the big announcement, which I think is going to be the sort of biggest announcement over the winter break, is what happens with that seat.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed has mentioned as well that he's streaming again tonight, which is the 14th of December.
Really?
Which is when we're streaming. I don't know if the episode's going to be up tonight, but I'm sure Ed will type in the chat and say whether it will or not. God's sake.
Yeah.
Is it on the last point now? Was Codemasters? Yes. Yeah. Absolutely gutting news. I'm gutted.
So sad. Because it's going to be pay to win.
The podium pass already came out before the paddock pass. Paddock passes, yeah. So yeah, podium pass. The podium pass was already put in the game before, it's in 2020. Right. But that's to try and conform to what we've got. It's got the rocket pass, and then you got the battle pass for Fortnite. You got whatever Destiny calls their one. Halo's got a battle pass on Master Chief Collection, but it's free. So Ed said it's gonna be F1 Ultimate Team, which I'm sure.
Oh God.
There'll be informs. Can't wait to get a Pierre Gasly inform.
Inform Günther Steiner.
Yeah, like you have to have managers and stuff. You can have principals. That would be brilliant.
Oh, that actually, now I don't mind it. That's not.
If they don't have a Flavio Briatore card, I'm going to be so let down.
Oh,
legacy yes. Flavio Briatore. 99 pace, 99 band. Icon card. But yeah, I mean, it might be good. I mean, Take Two. I mean, I'm not keen on either company. I love Codemasters. I've grown up on Codemasters games.
Yeah.
Either way, all you can do is hope for the best, and the investment.
Yeah,
worth it. Codemasters. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say it's hard to tell because like EA has made some really popular games, and like FIFA has been really popular, but it's also hated. It's weird. It's a double-edged sword. Like they're very, very popular games and they sell well, yet there's always a lot of fan base sort of complaints, with EA games.
Yeah, and it's got the Frostbite engine, so we could get some like really exciting crashes and stuff, maybe.
True, actually, yeah.
True. So it might be good, and I think a lot of it though is because Codemasters have the F1 license, and from 2022 onwards, I believe that they've got the WRC license as well.
Oh, really?
Let me just check when that starts. WRC license, I think it's 20. Right, so the 5-year deal starts in 2023.
That's it.
So EA buy them out, and that goes through until 2027 as well.
Oh wow.
So I doubt EA would change much. I think they'd just give more funding.
Yeah, I think they're probably more focused on other games to put all their efforts into F1. But the sort of last thing that I really wanted to talk about that I had written down was just a couple of points on Ferrari. We haven't really talked about them too. I mean, we touched on sort of Vettel's, post-race sing-song, but it was really telling to see that Vettel sort of didn't really care when he was holding up the club. Well, not maybe not holding up. I don't know, but he wasn't exactly jumping out of the way for him. And it was sort of Vettel saying, "Well, if he's faster, like just he'll pass me." Again, they sort of had a bit of I'm not sure what tyres they started on, but I know that they didn't pit under the safety car. I'm pretty sure, similar to Ricciardo's strategy. Whether that was actually the wrong call might be a bit of a sort of different story because they just kept getting past. Not really sure why they wouldn't just want to pit for fresh rubber.
Yeah, that's true. We saw Ferrari pitted for fresh rubber and it did nothing for him. At the same time, Ed did type in the chat saying he believes that the BTCC game is Codemasters as well. It's Motorsport Games. I don't really know if there's any affiliation with Codemasters or not. I know a lot of the crew who worked on the original Toka BTCC series, which are brilliant games, are working on the new one as well.
Right.
On this article here, it says, if you're not familiar with BTC, then it's perhaps best described as the UK's answer to NASCAR.
I mean,
Elbows out races taking familiar machinery and knocking it to pieces around the likes of Kent rather than Kentucky.
it's not far off.
Oh,
They're not.
far
They're
off.
driving in slightly more than just circles or
Wait.
ovals.
Here comes
But-
Ed. He's going to type something about that, isn't he? Hates NASCAR.
Does he? I
Probably.
I don't necessarily hate it. I just never really got into it, to be honest. It isn't really covered in the UK, to be honest. That
No,
much.
it's not. IndyCar was for a bit. Oh, here we go. NASCAR is just boring. Okay. Nothing more really to discuss on this.
Not really. No, Russell had a pretty good race. Didn't really grab the headlines, but he didn't really do too bad in 15. He did quite a good job at the end, holding off Giovinazzi. And yeah, that's about it, to be honest. It was all pretty bog standard at the end of the grid. Latifi, Fittipaldi, Magnussen. The Hasses were really far off the pace this weekend. They were just nowhere, which is a bit sad for Magnussen, his last race, but
Yeah.
you know, that's F1, I'm afraid. But yeah, that was Abu Dhabi. It was pretty boring. Not
It was
really
a very dull
too
finale.
well.
It'd be cool if they went back to like Brazil, but there's nothing we
Absolutely.
can do about that. In terms of future episodes of the podcast, we're not just gonna. We've got some ideas. There's definitely
Yeah.
ideas for the off season. We're gonna do at least. I reckon we'll do one next week for sure. So don't worry about
Yeah.
that. You'll have something
Sort of
to
like
look
a
over
big
Christmas.
season review.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was going to suggest what we might do is we might each pick a race that's like our favorite race from the season and lead an episode on it and just discuss it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We were going to have
That's a
some
good
guests on at some point as well, just to discuss their favorite drivers season and whatnot. But yeah, we've definitely got stuff we're going to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry, this ain't
It's in the
it.
pipeline.
This ain't the season finale. For us. We don't stop.
And
but
there's
yes,
Formula E, obviously, to look forward to as well.
yeah, maybe
but
we'll
that's-
talk about that at some point. But it's
yeah.
not at weird times, and it's
Yeah,
the whirring, the microwave noises.
yeah. Formula E fans triggered right now.
I was going to mention as well, just finally, that Lando was on live and a Renault F1 team member came up and started chatting to them about how he was really happy that McLaren won it and not Racing Point.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did he say why? Or
Well, it's because of all the scandals, isn't it? Because they keep accusing each other of stuff. It was always Renault who were leading the thing against Racing Point. So
right? Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
Cool.
Racing Point who got Renault done for illegal brakes last season.
Mm.
Ed has said Formula E has fans? ? Okay. On that note, I think
on that
that's about-
bombshell.
on that bombshell, I think it's time to end. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Formula WINOL podcast, and be sure to like, subscribe, share, whatever else. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Laters.